Hey, it's Jordan with the Young Turks and TYT Politics. I am here in Flint, Michigan. It is a nice evening, not as hot as it was during the day. This is TYT's 8th time here in the last year, and still a crisis and still a lot of problems in Flint, Michigan. Flint, Michigan, in my view, is a microcosm of a much broader problem in the country, which is greed, which is recklessness, and which is corruption. So we're going to talk about that. You saw on the headline, over 1,000 days, about 1,173 days since Flint water has been clean. Flint, Michigan, just north of Detroit, Michigan, was once a hub for the American middle class. General Motors was born here, and you used to have a vibrant middle class, kids running around in the streets. Last time I was here, we took a driving tour of those streets, and now they do not look like they did decades ago. We're right here outside of Woodside Church. Figured it would be nice to sit outside. I'm here with Claire McClinton. You are what people would call a Flintstone, born and raised here, and you've been here when the water was clean and when the water has not been. The most urgent thing, I think, why I keep coming back, is to let the viewers know, number one, the water is not safe, and number two, the people who have been poisoned are still suffering. Tell me about the latest, what you're seeing with the water situation, and as well as what the government is doing and is not doing.
Well, I appreciate you, Jordan, and the Young Turks for coming to Flint and continuing to follow this disaster. We're being told from around the country that people believe that the crisis is over. It is not. We still have health issues. We still have a water bill issue. We can't afford to pay for this poisoned water that we're being forced to pay for. We have a issue about the response of the government to our crises, and we still have a democracy problem along with those other problems. So I want to thank you for being here. And you mentioned the warm weather. In the warm weather is when the bacteria is most likely to show up, and that's aside from the lead. And that is something that we're very concerned about, because there's not a week goes by that I don't find out about someone who's contracted some form of a bacterial infection. And this is aside from the lead problem. So we have a lot of challenges here to get information out, and we want the nation to know that Flint is still living under a disaster.
You know, it's interesting because my audience knows this, but I've been kind of criticizing the media. All they do is cover Russia. And, you know, our democracy is under attack. I know today the media has been fixated on the president's son, apparently, had a controversial meeting. And, you know, I think that maybe there should be some investigation, but you talked about democracy and how your democracy in Flint has been under attack. Can you kind of explain what happened here and how the residents are still not in control, even after you've been poisoned? Well,
in Michigan, this is one of the untold stories about the water crisis, is the toxicity of our democracy. Our democracy was stolen along with the drive to steal our water away from us. And in 2011, they passed a law called an emergency manager law. It allowed the governor to send individuals to cities and towns, and that individual had total control of the municipality. So this individual could dissolve contracts, and that includes union contracts. They could sell off assets. They could fire and hire who they wanted. The city council was just a showpiece. The emergency managers had total control. The people had no voice. We had no voice in going to the Flint River that poisoned us. We had no voice in leaving the Flint River back in December of 2014, when General Motors was allowed to leave the Flint River, because this water was rusting their parts. And we're still dealing with that same situation because federal and state authorities refused to act when we were sounding the alarm. So this democracy and the dismantling of it is just as much a part of this story as the poison water itself, because a lesson that we want people to learn is that when you don't have democracy, you don't have a voice in your own affairs. How do you resist the powers that be when they poison you? So that's a heck of a question. And recently you mentioned the example of city council, who's been, for the most part, asleep at the switch on so many issues, but they decided about 3 weeks ago to stand up, and they declared a moratorium on water liens. Water liens were going to be imposed on 8,000 residents who was behind in their water bill. When you're behind in your water bill in Flint, you can end up losing your home because they can put a lien on your home for the unpaid bill. So the city council said, well, we're going to do something and stand up. So they said, we're going to put a 1-year moratorium on that proposal. Well, what we call the RTAB, which is another arm of the emergency manager law, they get to veto or approve anything that the mayor and the city council passes. So they decided, no, you're going to keep those liens on these 8,000 properties.
And that's the Receivership Transition Authority Board, which is about 4 or 5 businessmen appointed by the governor, Rick Snyder. Mm-hmm. So essentially, they are Rick Snyder's proxy, which essentially means decisions being made by this board to either approve what the city council or the mayor do or overturn what the mayor and the city council do are coming from Rick Snyder. Don't know that. So what she was saying is essentially this Receivership Transition Authority Board, which is a board of about 4 to 5 business people, they were appointed by Rick Snyder, the governor. So essentially, Rick Snyder is serving as the mayor of Flint.
This water authority is the reason that we were poisoned to begin with, because for 50 years we had been with the Detroit water system, and because they were so anxious and so gung-ho to get this new water authority in here to steal our local water control, by the way, and in the process we got poisoned. The bondholders for this new pipeline are Wells Fargo, J.P. Morgan, Stifel, and when this bond was negotiated, the bondholders lauded it as one of the greatest things ever. It was given an award for the Midwest Bondholders Association. This was a fabulous thing. Now, since that has been implemented, we have been poisoned. We are still sick. We still have hair falling out. We still got rashes, and we live in fear every day that some bacterial infection is going to impact us. But be that as it may, none of that kept the bondholders from getting paid. And when Jeff Wright, our drain commissioner, who's supposed to be protecting the waterways and water sources and looking out for the water of the people, but he was a key cheerleader and a point guard for this new water authority, he was asked in a local Detroit radio interview, now that the mayor, right now we have to decide where we want to get our water from. The mayor has said, let's go back to the Detroit water system, which is now called the Great Lakes Water Authority. And by the way, I hate them using our Great Lakes name for a corporate leech like what they formed down there. But at any rate, when she said we're going back, I propose we go back to the Detroit water system. And Jeff Wright was asked, well, now that the mayor is proposing that they go back to the Detroit water system, what's going to happen to the new pipeline, that being the KWA? What's going to happen with that, Jeff? Jeff said, oh, we're going to be made whole. The KWA is going to be made whole. No problem. Well, guess what? The people in the city of Flint, we want to be made whole. That's who need to be made whole, is us. We need lifetime health care. We need to be able to go to our sink and turn on and have full access to water, regardless of the cost, because we need water to live. And we need to be able to go to the sink and turn on fresh water and clean water and be able to trust it. And last but not least, we need control of our own water. We don't need J.P. Morgan and the rest of these bond sharks and loan sharks to control our water. Because if we don't get control of our water and be able to say when it's safe, to be able to negotiate the prices among ourselves for our own needs, then we have no future in promise that this kind of situation won't rise up again.